At 6:45 p.m., gunfire shattered Archer Park. Two armed men opened fire on a targeted Jewish gathering, sending hundreds fleeing in panic. Within minutes, children were wounded, police officers shot, and lives lost. At least 40 people were rushed to hospital. Among the dead were a community rabbi, a Holocaust survivor, and a 10-year-old girl. As investigators uncovered terror links, intelligence failures, and an unexpected act of heroism that saved countless lives, the nation was left asking one question: how did a celebration of light become a scene of unimaginable darkness? The perfect target. The event was known as Hanukkah by the Sia Relaxed. Family-focused gathering with live music, kids' activities, and food, held against the backdrop of Bondi Beach. It was meant to be joyful, a chance for families to come together during Australia's summer to celebrate faith, survival, and community. Shabbat Bondi had run the event for years, and with each year, the crowd grew larger and more vibrant. What most people didn't realize was that security had quietly been tightened. Earlier that year, Rabbi Eli Schlanger, the 41-year-old assistant rabbi at Shabbat Bondi and one of the event's main organizers, had spoken to CHABAD.org about a worrying trend. Attendance had surged, but so had anti-Semitic incidents. Even while planning a celebration, the community was preparing for the possibility of harm. That evening, the gathering filled Archer Park, just off Campbell Parade, the road that runs alongside the beach. Families spread blankets on the grass. Children ran around laughing. Some people swam in the ocean while others danced and played drums nearby. Witnesses later said it felt like a perfect summer night. At 6:45 p.m., it ended, when chaos erupted. Footage recorded by people at the scene captures the exact moment gunfire broke out. In seconds, calm turned into chaos. Hundreds of people ran in every direction toward the water, into nearby streets, through parks trying to escape. The sound of gunshots rang out across the beach for nearly 10 minutes, a stretch of time that felt endless to those caught in it. The shooters were later identified as Sajid Akram, 50, and his son Naveed Akram, 24. Armed with rifles, they moved with intent. Investigators say they deliberately separated attendees of the Hanukkah event from other beachgoers, making sure their attacks stayed focused on the people they had come to target. Emergency crews arrived to scenes of devastation. Injured people were scattered across the park. Children were screaming. Some had been shot. An 8-year-old girl had been hit in the leg, her mother wounded beside her. At least 40 people were taken to hospital. 2 police officers were shot while responding, and 2 children were left in critical condition. Among those killed was Rabbi Eli Schlanger, the same man who had helped build this event and had spent 18 years serving the Bondi Jewish community. Also among the dead were Holocaust survivor Alex Klaitman, French national Don El-Kayem, Rabbi Yaakov Leviton, Tibor Weitzen, who was killed while shielding his wife, and a 10-year-old girl named Matilda, whose family asked that her surname remain private, the gunman. A disturbing background. What made this attack especially unsettling wasn't only the scale of the violence, but what investigators later uncovered about the 2 men who carried it out. The father, Sajid Akram, was 50 years old and legally licensed to own firearms. He had held a gun license for around 10 years and had 6 registered weapons in his name. Police were familiar with him, but he had never been classified as an immediate risk. His son, 24-year-old Naveed Akram, appeared, at least on the surface, to be very different. His mother, Verna, told the media he was a good boy who doesn't have a firearm, doesn't even go out much, doesn't mix with friends, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke. Till 2 months before the attack, he had been working as a bricklayer. When the company collapsed, he was left without a job. According to his mother, he spent his days fishing, scuba diving, swimming, and going to the gym, nothing that seemed out of the ordinary for a young man living in Sydney. But there was another side to Naveed that raised serious alarms. Australia's domestic intelligence agency, ASIO, had been aware of him since 2019, reports later revealed. He had been investigated over close links to an ISIS cell operating in Sydney. He was connected to Isaac El-Matari, an ISIS operative arrested in July 2019, who declared himself the group's leader in Australia and is now serving a 7-year prison sentence. Intelligence sources also said an ISIS flag was found inside the vehicle the pair used to drive to Bondi Beach. Some officials even raised the possibility of links to Iran-backed terror networks, though Australian authorities have not publicly confirmed any foreign involvement. Despite all of this, Naveed Akram was not considered an immediate threat. ASO Director General Mike Burgess later acknowledged, "One of these individuals was known to us, but not in an immediate threat perspective. So we need to look into what happened here." It's a statement that continues to weigh heavily in intelligence agencies. And on the public, the hero nobody expected in the middle of the terror. Something extraordinary unfolded. Footage that has since been viewed millions of times shows a man in a white shirt stepping out from behind a parked car as gunfire rips through the crowd. Instead of running, he does the unthinkable. He charges straight at one of the gunmen. His name is Ahmed Alamad. He's 43 years old, a fruit shop owner, and a father of 2. He had no weapon, no special training, just instinct and courage. While everyone else was trying to escape, Ahmed ran toward the danger. The video captures the moment he tackles the shooter from behind. The two struggle violently, the rifle trapped between them. Fueled by adrenaline, Ahmed manages to overpower the gunman, wrestle the weapon away, and force him to the ground. At one point, he even turns the rifle back toward the attacker, pushing him into retreat, but the bravery came at a cost. As Ahmed fought one shooter, the second opened fire. Ahmed was shot twice, once in the arm and once in the hand. He was rushed into surgery and remains in hospital. Where his family say he is in stable condition, there's little doubt. Ahmed Alamed saved dozens of lives. NSW Premier Chris Minns later called him a genuine hero, saying, "A man walking up to a gunman who had fired on the community and single-handedly disarming him, putting his own life at risk to save the lives of countless other people. That man is a genuine hero." Even President Trump commented from the White House, saying Ahmed's actions saved a lot of lives. Ahmed's cousin, Mustafa, told reporters, "He's a hero, 100%. He was shot twice, but he's tough. He's going to be okay." What makes Ahmed's actions even more remarkable is that he wasn't a first responder. He wasn't trained for moments like this. He was an ordinary man who saw something horrific unfolding and made a split-second decision to stop it. He didn't pause to weigh the risk. He didn't think about himself. He simply acted. The broader context, a rising tide of hatred. This attack didn't come out of nowhere. It unfolded during a time when anti-Semitism has been rising sharply in Australia. And across the globe, figures from the Executive Council of Australian Jewry paint a stark picture. In the 2 years following the Hamas attack on Israel, on October 7, 2023, Australia recorded more than 3,700 anti-Jewish incidents. That's 5 times the rate seen over the previous decade. These weren't just online threats or offensive slogans. They included anti-Semitic graffiti, firebombings, and arson attacks targeting synagogues and Jewish-owned businesses. Australia is also home to a large number of Holocaust survivors, which gives attacks like this a painful historical weight. In 2022, the federal government created a dedicated task force to deal specifically with anti-Semitic threats and violence, an acknowledgement that the problem was no longer isolated or rare, just 4 months before the Bondi Beach shooting. In August 2025, Australia accused Iran of being behind arson attacks on a Jewish synagogue in Melbourne and a Jewish-owned restaurant in Sydney. The fallout was serious enough that diplomatic ties were cut. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese addressed the gravity of what had happened and why it mattered, saying this is a deliberate assault on Jewish Australians during the inaugural day of Hanukkah, a time that should be filled with happiness. An assault on Jewish Australians is an assault on all Australians. Daniel Aegean, from the Executive Council of Australian Jewry, put it even more bluntly. Our statistics on anti-Semitic occurrences are unprecedented, reaching levels we have never encountered in over 3 decades of monitoring and data collection. Nation reeling, the shock didn't stop at Sydney's shoreline. The impact rippled across the world. Israeli President Isaac Herzog described the shooting as a terrorist attack and called for stronger action against anti-Semitism in Australia. The Israeli embassy confirmed that 1 Israeli citizen had been killed and another injured. French President Emmanuel Macron publicly mourned Dan El-Kayem, the French national who lost his life in the attack. In Jewish communities overseas, fear set in quickly. In Los Angeles, only hours after the shooting, Rabbi Noah Farkas of the Jewish Federation Los Angeles said parents were calling non-stop, asking a heartbreaking question: was it safe to bring their children to synagogue during Hanukkah? But what happened next surprised many. Instead of pulling back, Jewish communities pushed forward. Across Los Angeles and cities around the world, Hanukkah events went ahead. Security was increased. Attendance didn't shrink, it grew. The message was clear. As Rabbi Farkas explained, the whole point of terrorism is to terrify Jews from coming together. We will never retreat in the face of hatred, and will never refrain from carrying on our Jewish traditions. Rabbi Zalman Shmotkin, executive director of CHABAD.org, framed the moment through the deeper meaning of the holiday itself, saying, when darkness attacks, Hanukkah teaches us to fight back with light, pride, and yes, joy. The questions lingering as investigators continue their work. Uncomfortable questions remain. How did a man flagged by intelligence agencies in 2019 for links to ISIS remain out of focus for 6 years? Why wasn't he monitored more closely despite his documented connection to a convicted ISIS operative? What happened in those years that led Naveed Akram down this path? And what was the true dynamic between father and son? Was this a jointly planned terror attack, or was one influencing the other? NSW Police Commissioner Mal Lanyon stated there was no indication the pair had been planning the attack in advance. Yet they arrived at a targeted Jewish celebration, armed with firearms and explosives. That contradiction raises serious concerns. Either intelligence systems failed, or the planning was so controlled and concealed that it went undetected. The ISIS flag found in their vehicle, combined with the deliberate targeting of a Hanukkah event, points to something far more calculated than a spontaneous act of violence. This wasn't rage. This wasn't random. It was terrorism. The victims we remember behind the numbers are people, real lives, stories that didn't deserve to end this way. Rabbi Eli Schlanger spent 18 years building the Jewish community in Bondi. He was 41 years old, a husband and a father of 5. This wasn't just an event, he organized it, reflected who he was. Hanukkah, for him, was about continuity, hope, and bringing people together. He lived that message right up to his final moments. Alex Klateman came to Bondi Beach to celebrate Hanukkah. It's the way he had many times before. He was a Holocaust survivor, someone who had already lived through humanity's darkest chapter. His wife, Larissa, also a Holocaust survivor, survived the attack. She later told reporters, still in shock, his body is still there. I'm sitting there and don't know what I have to do. Her words captured a grief too heavy for language. Then there was Matilda. She was just 10 years old. She should have been lighting candles, laughing with friends, opening presents. Instead, her family was left planning her funeral. These aren't just names on a list. They were mothers and fathers, children and grandparents, pillars of a community and the promise of its future. Moving forward, light and darkness. At the heart of Hanukkah is a simple but powerful idea. It's the Festival of Lights. The holiday marks the rededication of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem and the miracle of a day's worth of oil burning for 8. A reminder that even when resources seem gone, hope can still last. Hanukkah is about light in moments that feel impossible, about choosing hope when despair feels easier. The holiday begins in darkness literally during the shortest days of the year. Each night, another candle is added to the menorah. The light grows gradually. It's not symbolic in theory, it's something practiced night after night. A quiet refusal to let darkness win. After the Bondi beach attack, Jewish communities around the world leaned into that tradition. Events weren't canceled. Security was increased, yes, but the candles were still lit. People still gathered. They chose not to disappear. Ahmed Al-Ahmed's actions reflected that same spirit. Running toward gunfire to protect strangers wasn't just bravery. It was light cutting through darkness. So were the first responders who ran toward danger. The bystanders who helped others escape, the families who mourned openly instead of hiding, the community leaders who stood firm and said, "We will not be intimidated." The unfinished story as of now, Navid Akram remains in hospital, in critical but stable condition, under police guard. Authorities say that once he recovers they expect he will face charges. Investigators are still working to understand how 2 men operating from inside a home were able to carry out one of the deadliest attacks in Australian history. And whether anyone else played a role, questions also surround Sajid Akram. Did he radicalize his son? Or was he unknowingly part of something larger? Was there another individual involved who hasn't yet been identified? Those answers matter not just for justice, but to stop this from happening again. Because what this attack made painfully clear is that safety cannot be assumed. Not in Australia, not anywhere. Anti-Semitism isn't a problem buried in history books. It's present. It's growing. And on December 14th, 2025, it turned a celebration of light into an act of devastating darkness. But darkness has never erased light, and it never will.